the stream is now on.
What? Is this a live stream or something?
Yep, but nobody's here yet.
It's something called a live.
Oh, weird. Oh, someone's here.
But I will let people know that they can now watch it.
Yahoo! Yeah. I was at risk of also being too sick to join for this episode, but the healing power of Jesus coming out of his cave purged the poison from my body. To make a long story short for the viewers at home, I think I'm developing a 30-year-old shrimp allergy.
That's so sad. I didn't know that was something that could happen.
It happened to my sister a couple of years ago. She just suddenly developed a big sensitivity to it.
That's messed up.
Shrimp specifically?
I'm 90% sure it's shrimp because every time in recent memory it's happened where suddenly I'm in the middle of the night doing really bad, or the day after doing really bad. The last thing I ate was shrimp.
Damn.
Maybe
I know that can happen.
you should just eat 20 or 30 more shrimp just to be sure.
You know what? I like the cut of your jib. We got a bunch still in the freezer, so maybe I chow down.
You need to have a shrimp every morning to immunize yourself.
It's like those
just
guys
one
that
shrimp.
do a little bit of poison.
Exactly. How else are you gonna? That's not a good idea, and you shouldn't do that. But I do think about that with I'm allergic to cats, a little bit, not insufferably so, but when I had a cat, I had acclimated to him. I was still kind of allergic, but it got normal. I just didn't. It wasn't that bothersome after a while. And now that he's been gone for a while, anytime I do go see a cat, I'm like, oh wait, I'm allergic to cats. Oh fuck.
Yup, that's how they get you.
So it's and that's the other thing with that for me is milk. Having having lactose intolerance is normal for human beings. A normal human being does not drink a lot of milk and shouldn't drink a lot of milk.
Right.
I have a bowl of cereal every morning, so I'm drinking milk on the daily, and I worry that if I ever stopped drinking milk, I would immediately get deathly sick if I ever tried drinking milk again. So I need to keep it in my system forever.
It's like people who will buy a dandruff shampoo and being well, my dandruff is all gone, I don't need to use it anymore.
Yeah.
But then 3 days after not using it, they have a bad breakout.
Oh fuck!
But for dairy products.
Exactly.
Wait, I don't need the milk anymore. I'm feeling great. 3 days later, you're found dead in the pavement.
I've been on that Fairlife milk stuff. I don't know if they have that everywhere, but it's this. It's not nut milk, but it is less lactose milk. It's kind of weird. It
oh yeah.
You know how milk expires after a week? This stuff is good for a month. It's crazy. It's magic. And I only use it to put it in my coffee, but it's great for that because I just use a little bit a day.
Milk should be good for longer than a week. Most milk is good for
know.
a few weeks, but yeah, the idea of there being shelf-stable milk is very strange.
I'm
but it does
down.
exist.
Because I use
Oh,
milk
Jesus,
slow.
I'm sorry. I just pinned someone's diarrhea message by accident.
Well, that's how it goes.
Off to a good start.
By the way, chat, how is the audio? Just curious before we get started. I've adjusted audio slightly, so I just want to make sure that it's all good.
We got audio.
Good,
we got
good,
volume.
good. All right, good. Just making sure. I'm always wary when I tweak audio stuff because it can be good or
scary.
bad. Just like Columbo can be good or bad.
Just like Columbo.
It's really just like Columbo when you think
It's really
about
Columbo clues.
Everything, it's
We need to
all
stay.
coming together. It's all turning up Columbo. From the beginning to the end.
Mr. Columbo, everything in the world is now exactly the same. Ah, gee, fellas, that's real weird.
All right. Well, welcome. I feel like I do that joke a lot. Welcome to another lovely episode of Well, That Explains It, an RTVS Columbo podcast. I'm here. I'm Trog. We got Holly. We got Mike.
Hi.
The gang's all here. this
Yippee!
week, this
I'm normal
month,
this week. I can do it.
whenever we record this, which is whenever we want to, because, you know, people are busy. That's how it goes.
We are recording today's episode on the most holy of days, Easter.
That's true. Columbo's
the
famous
day-
favorite holiday.
This is the day he came out of that damn cave. They hotboxed him too long, and he needed a breath.
Whenever you think about it, Easter might be his favorite holiday because he does like to eat eggs,
He does.
hard boiled.
It's true.
Do they have any chili holidays?
Not that I know of, but
I
they
think
should.
the closest thing would
They
be
should.
4th of July. That's like the only thing that I could even could come close to being a
Yeah.
chili related holiday, you know?
That could be a chili holiday if you make it.
Mhm.
I feel like that's
But it
close.
can't be like National Chili Day or whatever. That's cheating. They do that for like
No.
every food any day. It's got to
Yeah.
be like a different holiday, like
Exactly.
Christmas, and they bring out the chili.
Yeah.
Yeah, or like Christmas in Japan where they have fried chicken.
Right.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Learning
that
all
was like
kinds of stuff.
it was like a ploy by KFC. Like, well, there's barely any Christians here, so we can make Christmas the fried chicken day where you get specials on fried chicken, and now Christmas is
Alright.
the fried chicken day.
I mean, that's honestly genius.
It worked.
They were very smart. Just like Columbo was very smart in this episode. I'm the king of segues. In this episode called Dead Weight.
Dead
This
Weight.
is an interesting episode. Kind of after watching this episode, I said to myself and I said to my husband, I was like, this was almost not an episode of Columbo. This is a
Yeah.
very strange one, and I think there's some information about the filming of this episode that we'll get into that maybe explained some of the strangeness. It's not a bad episode. I don't think it's bad, but it is a little, I would say, it's not really fair because there's only been 5 episodes. I think this is my least favorite so far, but that doesn't make it a bad episode per se.
Yeah.
I think it's funny and charming.
It's very interesting.
It's like an episode of a different TV show.
Yeah, after like pounding out like what the formula is and how they want it to work, it's like they kind of immediately, whether intentionally or not, kind of like go, what if we do something a little different? And it like, I mean, I suppose there's a reason like not every other episode following it feels quite like this one, but
it has an interesting
it's funny,
gimmick.
it's strange.
It has an interesting gimmick, and I think the production troubles maybe led to it being less than the sum of its parts, which we'll get into that. Peter Falk was a very bad boy. He was a bad boy on this episode.
He was
a damn bad
behaving badly on Earth.
Peter Falk was behaving a little badly, which the further we get into discussing Columbo, the more Peter Falk behaving badly events I think we'll have to go over because by the end of the series run, he was running the show one way or another. But
I need to fucking, I think I mentioned this before. A friend of mine lent me a book that's like about the filming and like writing and stuff of the show.
Mhm.
I need to fucking read that ASAP.
Yeah, I know about that book. Is it called Shooting Columbo?
Yup.
Yeah, I
They shot
read
him?
about that. They did
couple
with a
times.
camera, like
No.
for 69 episodes. But yeah,
Nice.
I heard about that book and I was like, dang, I want to get that book. That's probably very interesting.
I have to read it. I've like barely tucked into it so far.
I do
I
love
gotta
me
sit
some
down, put more time in.
I love some behind the scenes. But
Oh, then you're gonna love this episode of the podcast,
Yeah.
viewer.
so let's dive
I
right
say to
in.
the host.
This is an episode that honestly, I think the pacing is very good because we start off, we waste no time getting into the thick of things in this episode. Immediately, we meet one of our main characters, General Hollister.
Oh, before we jump right into it, I have some fun facts about the
sure, yeah,
director
yeah.
and writer.
Go for it.
So the director of this episode is one Jack Smite, mostly known for like doing theater and film work. This is a trend you'll notice for several of the major roles of this episode, one way or another. People that were in World War II.
Okay, yeah.
So this fellow was in the Air Forces, and then after that sought work as an actor and like doing stage stuff. Then he became a stage manager, and then he branched out to directorial work. Most of the work he's known for is Harper, which is a '66 Paul Newman mystery thriller. Did a bunch of like disaster and thriller stuff in general, and like some war movies, and then also known for a 1979 basketball comedy film called Fast Break.
I feel like I've heard of
which-
Fast Break.
I've definitely heard of Fast Break. Yeah.
I looked up a little bit about it, and it's one of those like quintessentially made in like the 70s and 80s, because like the poster is like, oh man, this basketball team has a preacher, a convict, and their best player is a woman.
Oh.
It's the cover of it looks like it was drawn by like a Mad Magazine illustrator.
Oh, nice.
It does.
Classic
He
late
died in
70s.
2003.
Rest in peace.
Our writer is one.
Dude, that's
John
crazy because
T.
that means he
Dugan.
died before Columbo the show ended. I think.
Yup.
That's
No,
nuts.
wait, no. The last Columbo episode I think was 2001.
Oh, was it? For some reason, I had in my head that it was 2006, but that does
I'll
seem
look that
very
up later.
late for Columbo. Now that I say it out
Mhm.
loud.
Our screenplay writer was one John T. Dugan. Sometimes you would see his work on TV under the pseudonym John Kingsbridge. He was a screenwriter who did a bunch of TV work, including Bonanza, Mission Impossible, Little House on the Prairie, and Star Trek: The Original Series. Notably, he wrote one episode of TOS under the pseudonym John Kingsbridge, specifically because he was really unhappy with Gene Roddenberry's rewrite of his work. It was the episode where like Spock and Kirk get possessed by like two like astral beings or whatever. And at the end of the episode, Roddenberry wrote it so that the two ghost guys fade away into nothingness. And he didn't like that because it went against his Catholic beliefs.
They should have ascended to heaven, is what he
Yep.
he said. That these space ghosts should have gone to space
They
heaven.
should have followed God.
That's
Also,
interesting.
he died in 94.
Rest in peace.
Rip.
Well, that's very interesting. I do love me
I've-
some
I've-
TOS.
Yeah, I watched like about half of it and then like took a break for a while. I got to get back to it. I've got some actor facts that we'll get to as we like get into who the actors are as the characters.
Nice. Okay. Well, some of those actors we have some characters. We open up on a lovely seaside estate. We meet.
Apparently, that's Peter Falk's real, or was a house that Peter Falk owned.
Really? All right. Hey, it's a nice house. I was impressed.
Mhm.
So we have
really?
General Hollister, a distinguished but currently retired war hero at his luxurious seaside abode, and he is visited one morning by a Colonel Dutton. At least I think he's a colonel or
Yes.
commander, colonel, one of them.
Yep.
Mr. Dutton.
So our general is played by Eddie Albert. He was a screen and stage actor. You might know him from The Heartbreak Kid and The Longest Yard.
Heard of The
He
Longest
was
Yard.
also, I haven't seen it, but I have heard of it. He was also a World War II vet. He got blacklisted in the 50s during the Red Scare, specifically because his wife, a Mexican actress who went under the stage name Margot, was an avowed leftist, not a communist, not a member of the Communist Party, but she was a leftist person. The only reason why his career wasn't completely in the toilet was because of his World War II service history.
Well, there
But
you
his
go.
wife struggled to find work afterwards. He was an avowed environmental and sex education activist. He grew a bunch of vegetables, and he died in 2005.
Okay.
He sounds like a
There's
lovely
some
guy.
more stuff we'll get into when we talk about the hows of this episode.
We got some
and-
a vegetable lover through and through.
Our victim, the good colonel, was played by one John Kerr, who was a Broadway actor for a while. Then he did some TV acting, and then he was like, what if I got into directing? What if I did directing work? Immediately became super disillusioned with the realities of being a director, made a hard pivot to like law study, and became an attorney in the 70s. And that was his
Dang.
full-time job until like 2000s. Died
That's
in 2013.
crazy. You know, I'm sure being a lawyer or being an attorney or whatever is very hard, but I feel like you hear so often about people that are doing one thing and then they're just like, you know what, I think I'm going to
Then
get into
pivot
law.
to being a lawyer.
Yeah, and
Yup.
it's like, damn, that's crazy. Isn't the bar like really hard? Like, isn't it?
Yep.
Don't you have to
really
go to law
tough?
school for like a few years?
Yep.
That seems impressive, to say the least.
He's barely in this episode.
Yeah, that's true. And I was actually going to bring that up. So, first scene, Hollister, Dutton shows up. There's a little bit of an exchange. They obviously know each other. It turns out that Hollister, who now owns a construction company after, I guess, being honorably discharged, was running a scam with Dutton to defraud the government with some kind of bogus, like, arms or construction contracts. I don't know much about the minutia of government contracts, but it makes sense. It sounds like they were basically funneling money to Hollister, but unfortunately, the Inspector General has suddenly decided to run an investigation into these contracts, and Dutton is very sure that there's basically no way that they will not get caught. Apparently, they did a very bad job of covering their tracks with this whole scam. Because
it's so funny. The general is like, "Oh, you're overreacting. It's all okay. Everything will be fine. Don't worry about it. By the way, they're definitely gonna catch you."
Yeah, he kind of like tries to turn it around.
You're not going to rat me out when they catch you, right?
Yeah,
like,
so
there's no problem. We're not going to get in trouble. By the way, they're going to catch you immediately. They're going to know you fucking did it, you jerk.
Yeah, they basically, like, Dutton's like, they're running a investigation. We're super fucked. Hollister is immediately like, well, no, you're fucked. You're the one who accepted the contracts. I just gave you the contracts. It's all your fault. And Dutton's like, no, man, this is like so much money that they know they're going to find out immediately that we were in it together. So Dutton's plan is basically, he said, I'm going on leave. I'm going to go to Geneva and disappear forever, basically is his plan. Which doesn't sound like the worst plan in the world. I don't really know a better one. He basically suggests that I'm going to Geneva. I'm going to disappear myself. I suggest that you do that too. Hollister definitely isn't interested in doing that. He says that, I got a company, like, people know who I am. I don't want to give all this up to go run away. And to top it off, Hollister is suddenly extremely suspicious of Dutton, kind of giving him up. He kind of grills him. He's like, well, what are you going to do if they find you? Are you going to rat me out? What's the big deal here? And so he does what any reasonable person would do in this situation, and then just immediately shoots him dead in his living room. This is maybe 5 minutes into the episode. It's extremely fast. The only faster kill was I failed to remember the name of the episode, but the one with the lady killer.
Woman. Yeah.
Where it just opens up with that.
There's like 3 things I really like about this scene. Number 1, I guess it's just a general early Columbo thing. They love these like really long, slow, panning, like dramatic shots as these like establishing moments, and they do it in a fun way in here. Number 2, this dude's house is fucking loaded with swords that he stole from like military campaigns in Asia.
Yeah,
he has so many
that.
fucking swords.
I noticed at least one katana. Yep. I was like, "What? You got a katana?" And it makes sense. I mean, if he's supposed to be a World War II vet, that took place in Japan, so sure.
And like a ton of guns that he's also showing off. Like, look at all these guns that I also stole. Number 3, fans of the Columbo Horse Watch will be delighted to know this is one of the fastest times from start to horse, but not the fastest in the series. 1 minute and 2 seconds in, there's a metal plaque of people riding horses hung up on his wall next to his private bar.
Yeah.
I was looking and I missed
right away.
That. I was like, dang, I can't find the horse in this one, but I should have been paying closer attention. Yeah. So Hollister shoots Dutton in his living room. Kind of a crazy crime to just like kind of pull off without any. This is like not even a premeditated murder. This is just like this guy hears this information and immediately decides that the best course of action is to ice this guy inside of his own house. So now after that, we kind of get into the real crux of the episode. In a Columbo first and maybe only that I can think of, there was an actual honest to God witness of the crime. A
Our
woman.
bumbling ditzy heroine and her bitch mother.
Yes, we have a woman and her mother in very cute matching ketchup and mustard outfits that just happen to be sailing
They
by.
look like Easter eggs.
They got the matching
It's true.
red and yellow. That I mentioned to my husband we were watching that the woman, the main female character, Helen, kind of looks like a GTA NPC a little bit in this scene with like a do-rag on. So they're out boating, and they see the crime.
Our wonderful, beautiful protagonist is played by one Suzanne Plachette. She was best known for her roles in The Bob Newhart Show, which was a sitcom I've never heard of. Many such cases in the 70s and 80s. And Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds in 63.
Yeah.
Also, she had like a really long acting career. She was in the fucking English dub of Spirited Away.
Oh wow.
Some of her other work included designing sheets for a textile company called H.P. Stevens & Co., and allegedly writing screenplays under a pseudonym, but I literally could not find anything about that online other than one citation in Wikipedia, which led to like a video interview that I didn't have time to watch.
All right.
She was friends with Peter Falk since she was 14.
That's true.
that's fun.
I saw a short. I watched a short clip. I wonder if it's the same one, where she does mention that she was childhood friends, or maybe not childhood, but at least knew Peter Falk growing up.
The mom was played by Kate Reid, who is a well-known Canadian actress with like a 50-plus year career. According to at least one book, was regarded as one of the finest actresses to ever come out of Canada.
Wow. That's impressive.
And
There's
she
a lot
just
of
plays a
people there.
bitch mother that hates her kid.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's
Canada's
a bit of
finest.
a one-note character, but she's not exactly load-bearing to the plot either.
She's there. She has a couple funny scenes. She sucks.
Oh yeah. I think it is a fun character and well acted as well. But yeah, so it's Helen Stewart is Ketchup Girl, and Miss Walters. I don't even think she ever is given a first name.
Nope.
In the mustard. So Helen sees the murder, mentions to her mom, like, I think I just saw a guy shoot another guy. Miss Walters is like, you're crazy, you're dumb, you didn't see anything, whatever.
You're seeing shit all the time. You're an idiot. You don't know how to drive my boat. You're gonna get us killed.
Yeah,
I hate you. Give me $200.
This episode is really more about Helen than Columbo in a way. Helen's basically the main character, and it's kind of just an entire episode about gaslighting this poor woman for the runtime.
It's like basically intentionally or not fucking gaslighting her, and then when like the one fucking evil guy shows her a shred of kindness, everyone is like, wait, why are you being nice to this guy now? What the fuck?
Yeah. So they're out on the water after witnessing the gruesome murder. They dock. Helen calls the police. An officer shows
They're like
up.
fumbling in the boat for a little bit, and there's just like this awful, very clearly 80-yard over dialogue where their lips aren't even moving.
Yeah, that's one thing that you really
There's a lot
notice.
of weird ADR and weird cuts in this episode. It's
a
very
lot of weird
like
cuts.
Like in terms of like an actual episode of television and like in its wholeness, it's not that bad. But like in terms of production, there's a lot of sloppiness in like every category of the thing.
Yeah,
It's a sloppy episode, thinking about it.
I'm gonna assume that ADR was probably less noticeable when you were listening to it over some shitty speakers built into your TV.
Right.
Yeah.
Versus now when it becomes immediately obvious whenever anything is ADR.
But it's so cute in this day and age. It's so funny to see. It's like, oh, that's wonderful.
I'm still waiting for another awesome rear projection or something like that. We haven't seen one of those in a while. They've been very on location. They've really shaped up.
It's bound to happen soon. Like during any of the 70s run, we're bound to see it again a couple of times, I think.
I hope so. So they call the police. Officer shows up, and we just this is just a scene to kind of establish Helen as
she's a ditz.
She's a ditz. She's kind of skittish, maybe like, not super self-confident.
It's great. The what's his name? The officer comes up and he's like, I'm here about the shooting you reported. And she's just like, oh, yeah. And they just stare at each other in like really awkward silence for a couple seconds.
Yeah.
He's like, well, go on. Like,
She's like,
yeah, the murder.
Yeah, the officer kind of asks her for any sorts of information that she can provide, and she's just like, I don't know. I just saw somebody in a bathrobe shoot somebody else in a military uniform, and says it was at that house, and then points to a house, and the cop is like, oh man, that's
That house?
Fuck.
That
That's
house?
the war hero's house.
Yeah. So the cop on the scene knows that the house belongs to Hollister and definitely doesn't want to be the one to go knocking on a war hero's house and giving him the bad news that somebody has accused him of murder. He says, all right,
We can't be doing this, Chief. You gotta send in the Colum Bloodhound.
we gotta time to call in an expert. And that leads us to our time to Columbo this episode is 10:59. I found that while watching the episode, I was surprised. I was like, oh, that's very quick. That's a very fast time to Columbo on this one.
I think one of my favorite gags in this episode is like when Sanchez is calling, the dispatcher. Sanchez in every fucking scene he's in, by the way, looks like he's either about to burst out laughing or like burst into a really big smile. It's very cute.
Yeah.
When they're calling the dispatcher and he's like, oh shit, okay, I'll have someone from Homicide, I'll get him out to you as soon as possible. And it's like, I don't know, the middle of the day or something, the sun is still up. The next scene where Columbo arrives is the fucking dead of night.
That is true. I didn't even think about that, but you're absolutely correct. It does go
We'll have
from
the boys out
midday.
as soon as possible, 12 hours later.
Yeah, the sun is down. Columbo
ate a
shows up.
he ate a really big sandwich and he needed to lay down for a while.
Oh,
He had
fuck,
better
you know how it
things
is.
to do. Columbo shows up. Nobody recognizes him as per usual. They do this pretty much every single episode. He pulls into a parking spot. Sanchez is like, sorry, sir, this spot is taken. And he's like, oh gosh, I'm so sorry.
Columbo is pronouncing it like Sanchez's name like it's French, or like he thinks he's like Creole or something. He's like Sanchez.
And then, of course, Columbo gets to be like, oh, wait a minute. I'm the guy you're waiting for. Look, here's my badge. And then it's like, oh, yay, it's Columbo. He's doing Columbo things. Yeah. He goes up to the house. Hollister lets him in.
He tells Sanchez to search the boat, and Sanchez is like, we don't have a warrant. And Columbo's just like,
whatever.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Like, I think it goes a little something like, Columbo tells Sanchez to search the boat. Sanchez is like, we don't have a warrant. Columbo's like, oh, it's okay. I'll just ask him. And if he says no, then I'll get a warrant. But you should just go do it anyway.
right.
Which, classic Columbo stuff.
But he asks for forgiveness and permission.
So, General Hollister is all gussied up. He's gonna go to a big, important dinner because he's a big, important guy, like everybody that murders on Columbo. They're always going to a dinner or getting an award or having some kind of ceremony.
They're rich and they're important and they got places to be, so get this stray dog out of here.
Exactly. In fact, they're even packing up some old war things to be donated to a new museum exhibit that is all about himself, which is kind of crazy. I feel like normally you wait for somebody to die before you have like an entire museum thing dedicated to him, but I guess this guy is just that important. We'll learn more about his backstory later in the episode.
He's America's most special and bravest guy from the Korean War.
Oh, was it Korea? Oh, yeah,
I'm pretty sure it was
you're
Korea.
right, you're right. So anyway,
he just stole so many swords that they had to give him an entire memorial wing.
Yeah, before he died. It's a memorial, but he's still alive.
You may or may not have to hand it to him.
Yeah.
You should hand something to him.
So
what it is up to you, I suppose.
They're packing stuff up. Columbo is here. He's doing his normal, like, oh, sir, I'm so sorry to bother you. I'm just doing my job. Do you mind if I look around? Check this out. Oh, there's a box full of uniforms and a bunch of guns, but all of the guns are, the firing pins are removed. I don't know enough about guns to know exactly what that means, but I'm going to assume it's enough evidence to know that none of them were used in a murder.
I love that Columbo is like, can I look in the box? And the colonel's like, the general, sorry. He's like, but we just had that nailed up. It's going to be such a pain. My boys are working. And Columbo is like, oh, but it's just 2 little nails, sir.
It's true. And it's
I love that.
because you
He's like,
hear them
they've just done
the nails.
Yeah, it's like they've done so much. They've been working to seal up this box already, and Columbo's like, it's 2 nails. Sir.
Yeah,
it's 2 little nails. So
you literally
so
watch them pull the
it.
2 nails. You literally watch them pull the 2 nails out. Like, all right, that was not that big of a deal.
Yep. So he looks through the box. He's pretty, there's nothing suspicious in there.
Look at all these guns that I've stolen.
Can you imagine if the body was in there? That'd be the shortest episode of Columbo.
God, that would be so good.
That's true. So Columbo meanders around the house a little bit more, just kind of shooting the shit. He's obviously snooping, but doing it in his normal Columbo way, where he's just like making up stories about shit. He's just like looking at the fireplace like, I remember when I had a fireplace. Let me look at really closely at this fireplace for no reason.
Why do so many rich people in California have fireplaces? It's warm there.
That's a good point, actually. I didn't even think about that.
Most old houses have fireplaces here. I live in an old house. We have a fireplace.
I think Hollister is even like, no, I never use the fireplace. I just use the thermostat.
Like, he's like, it's for decoration. It's a conversation piece.
The much weirder thing is the fact that so many houses here have fireplaces, and yet people will use central heating.
Yeah, not even use it. That's, to be honest, that's normal in Texas as well. Around here, like my house has a fireplace. Literally, it will never get used once. There's no point in ever. Like, I don't know why we have a fireplace. It's a waste of room.
I love making fires. I love having a fireplace, except ours is busted and need to get it. We need to get the chimney fixed, and we can't use it in the meantime, so I can't make any fire. So it's like, it's just sitting here. There's nothing I can do with it.
We have a fireplace here, but that's because it gets like fucking 10, 20, 30 below in the winter.
Yeah, makes sense.
And you'd want to have a fire.
Right. Fire good for warm happy. What if the power goes out? Concerning.
You have to understand that Southern Californians, the coldest, the absolute like possible coldest it could get in Los Angeles is probably like 40 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's cold for people who are like adapted to living here.
Right.
So it's like,
I used to get stories from like my grandma about like going down to visit family that lived in California that are like, oh, it's so chilly today. We've got to break out like our big fur coats. And like the weather was like a mild day in the spring in like southern Quebec. So she's just like, I'm fine actually. I don't get it.
People here love to role play having weather. We don't have weather here, so they love to like, oh wow, oh it's cold, oh it's winter, it's time to bust out the big coat. It's like, it's not even, it's 50 degrees outside, guys.
Let's play pretend.
The big coat is a state of mind. You got to get into it.
Yeah. It does depend on where you are. If you're in the desert, then it does probably get down to like 30 or past 30 because you're in the fucking desert. But like by the sea, it is. If you're on the coast, it doesn't get that cold.
Yeah. So now we have what I think might be the first time we encounter a will-be classic Columbo trope, which is the murderer coming up with some kind of crazy story on the spot.
I remember now. I was doing this.
Yes.
And I was doing this. He even like does like the gesture where like you put your hands out to the side and pat them on your hips. Like, that must have been it.
Yep.
I also love like the general being like, I don't have a handgun.
Actually.
Wait, yes,
I do.
It's in my
have like 30
box
guns
with
actually.
a handgun medal. I have a bunch of them. Look.
Yeah, so Hollister claims that earlier in the day, he was trying on his old uniforms to see if they still fit. Columbo brings up the fact that the report said that there was somebody in a bathrobe, and Hollister goes, you know what? I was in a bathrobe, and then I put on my uniform. So obviously, whoever saw this must have just been confused and saw one person at 2 different times and not 2 different people, which is a crazy thing to try to pass off as truth. That's like an insane thing to say. After that, Columbo is given a little bit more of a tour, but they don't really find anything of note. Then we're treated to part 2 of Hollister's amazing, awesome cover story, where he tells Columbo about a target pistol that he had when he's asked about any other weapons he might have in the house. And in this scene, he delivers the best, like, oh yes, like the most convincing, like right as he comes up with the perfect lie, he's like, oh, you know what? I had my gun out. I was looking at it. I was thinking, oh, should I put it in the crate? And I stumbled in over the crate as I was looking at the gun in front of this big window. So that must have been what somebody saw. And there's a cut to Columbo that just made me laugh out loud because it is just like the most unimpressed look ever. In fact, I took a screenshot of it. Sorry if you're listening to this audio only, but I have to show the look that Columbo gives after this. As you can see here on the screen, this is the look that Columbo gives Hollister after Hollister comes up with his lie. I don't know how to like describe this look verbally, but he looks extremely, extremely impressed with Hollister's ability to come up with a lie.
We often joke about Columbo like having a preternatural sense of justice and being able to like infer stuff that he couldn't possibly know. This is one of those episodes where he's just a very good detective and just like shows up, like everything looks above board, but then it's like, can you explain why someone saw you shoot a guy? And then this guy's like going through all these hoops being like, well, it must have been I know, it must have been this, and then he did that must have been it, and he's just like,
way
really, like that's, oh boy, you did it, didn't you? Okay.
Yeah.
Like shit. All right.
He hits him with the fucking Zelda CDI. Really?
No.
Really?
Yeah, to be honest, I mean, we'll get more into this as the episode continues, but really, Hollister just did... This is just an episode where I feel like the villain is just... I don't think I don't think it's poorly acted. It might just be slightly poorly written, where the villain kind of makes a lot of dumb mistakes in a row that kind of just ends up being a layup for Columbo. Like, he hardly has to do anything at all.
Not a very good murderer. Not a very good murderer.
They make a point of it at the end where they're like, yeah, this is just like the general's character, is that he's really, really charismatic and he's really, really prideful and full of himself. And so he assumes that everything he says, everyone will just take it completely seriously because he's the big, famous, important guy.
Yeah, I think maybe this episode could have used a little bit more of building this guy up as like being overly confident, because I don't feel like they do a particularly stellar job. Like, you definitely get the idea that is what they are going for, but I think they could have just shown a little more. Like, there maybe was like one missing scene where he like uses his charisma. Like, maybe what they could have done is a scene where he uses his charisma to like cover up a white lie to somebody, where like Columbo obviously knows that it's true, but it's like not like a high stakes lie, but it just kind of shows the audience like, this is a guy that tries to get by on just being important, you know, something like that. Again, I don't think it was poorly acted, just, you know, maybe just could have thrown one more scene in there. Now, that being said, knowing about how the production of this episode went, I imagine that such a thing was probably just too difficult to actually film.
Right.
So
all Columbo murderers can be judged by like, how good is the character, how well are they written, is like the narrative interesting, and then also on how good of a murderer are they. Like, this guy's not he is an acclaimed war hero. He's a very good murderer, but he's not good at getting away with a murder. He's never had to get away with one.
Straight up, I would say 3 out of 10 in terms of like murder acumen. This guy does not do a good job. After Hollister does his song and dance where he's coming up with a fantastical lie that makes no sense, and Columbo totally believes him, Columbo's suspicion is piqued further whenever Hollister just starts to ask, like, so, who is this, I'm just curious, who is this witness?
just
want to know.
Hollister fucking one more things Columbo, and he's like, right, by the way, do you know who reported this? And Columbo's like, I can't tell you that, sir. And I didn't say it was a man, sir, but I also didn't say it was a woman, sir. And he says this line that sticks out to me where he's like, oh, that's okay. Mistakes have no gender, Columbo.
Yeah, that was kind of confusing. I was like, all right, yeah.
The woke general out here.
Yes.
So true, dude.
Anybody can make a mistake. It doesn't matter, you know, what gender you are. We all make mistakes equally in the eyes of the Lord on this blessed Easter Sunday.
And then Columbo hits him with his own one more thing and is like, oh yeah, by the way, I had the boys check on your boat. No warrant, by the way. I hope that's cool. And he literally says some shit like, all right, Columbo, you know what? I love a man who shows initiative. I love you. Good night.
Bye-bye. Yep.
Enjoy your dinner, sir.
So Columbo can't give any information about the witness away. Obviously, it's kind of crazy that Hollister would even ask, like, with the idea that somebody would just give that up when it's like, yeah, there's no, like, I'm not involved in the legal system at all, and I know that you shouldn't do that.
Right.
But you know who can give that information away?
The
harbor
harbor
guy that runs
master.
the marina right next to his house. Good old friendly Hollister just waltzes right up to this guy and tricks him into giving not only the name but the address of Helen and her mother, which is
He's
like,
oh, you know, it was my friends, some of my old friends that were waving to me. I just want to talk. I just want a word with them.
Yeah.
It won't be weird.
Which, you know, I guess maybe this is an example of how Hollister can, like, get by with just, you know, a smile.
Yes,
and,
Mr. War Hero, sir.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And the harbor master and, like, other people in this episode keep making a point of bringing up, like, how bad this woman's, like, sailing ability is.
Yeah.
And I kept thinking, because I hadn't fully remembered what happens in the episode, I kept thinking, like, oh my god, is this gonna end with him, like, trying to drown her and making it look like an accident, like in that one fucking episode with Mrs. Lysenko?
That's what I thought, too. I was, in fact, yeah, we're
I was
actually...
ready for it.
There's some thoughts I have about, maybe I'm giving the scriptwriter too much credit, but we'll get there in a moment because it's almost the very next scene. So after Hollister gets the name and address, we cut to Columbo going to visit Helen and her mom. We learn even more about Helen. I really like this.
There's like a pool party happening.
Yeah, that was actually a little confusing. I was like, where is this? Like, there's a pool in front of her house,
It's an
and
apartment
there's
complex.
people having a party there?
It's an apartment complex. They
Okay.
have like a pool in the middle of
I thought it was just
zone.
an unexplained, like, pool party that her mom was hosting.
Yeah. There's
No,
a
that was
line-
just their way to show that, like, they're not rich. They don't
Right,
they don't
yeah.
live in a wealthy manner. They live
Right.
like an apartment complex with other people who are having a pool party, right?
It makes sense. There's a line I really like here where Helen explains that she works with children and animals.
And animals.
Something about that, just like asking what somebody does for a living, and they're like, I work with children and animals, as just like a blanket statement is that was tickling me a lot.
They get you with, this house is just full of fucking heads, by the way. Like, there's all these, like, clay heads on the walls.
Yeah.
It's really funny. They try and hit you with the horse watch fake out, but she's sculpting like a
That's
giant
true.
weird llama.
It's not a horse. I saw that and I was immediately like, oh, there's the
I-
horse. And then
I thought it was a horse, but then you see another angle of it, and it's like, oh, it is like some other ungulate.
And then,
I
she
saw
says
you
it's a
post,
llama.
like, I saw you post, like, a screenshot of that scene, like, last night or today, like, with, like, the llama in frame. And I was looking at it, like, still kind of groggy, like, what the fuck is that? Some kind of weird poodle? I didn't know. And she makes some comment about her llama where she's like, oh, it's not just a llama. You see, I try and go beyond the surface to find a deeper meaning, a truer reality. And Columbo's just looking at her like, is she drunk right now?
Yeah. So Helen works with children and animals and likes to build stuff out of clay. Those are her defining features, as far as Columbo knows from this interaction.
Right. And is also, like, what's the word for when you're
Living with her bitch of a mother.
eccentric? She's
She is
eccentric and
eccentric
she's
for
living with her
sure.
mother.
Yeah. And so Columbo has to deliver the bad news that despite her report, they turned nothing up. There's a little bit of, I will say, there's a bit of unintentional gaslighting here from Columbo. He starts kind of suggesting, oh, maybe she wasn't sure. Maybe she needs glasses. Was she drinking?
And her mother's certainly fucking doing it on purpose.
Yeah, that is one thing they make very clear is that there's a lot of drinking that goes on in this household. Columbo shows up and she's like, oh yeah, we were just having before dinner drinks and then also pouring wine for the dinner. They're like that's a level of alcoholism that maybe should have stayed in the 70s perhaps. But
he fucking walks in and the mother's like, I need to see some ID to make sure you're really a cop. And so, like, he does it and she's like, well, you don't look like a policeman.
yeah.
I need a
Very-
drink.
very adversarial. She's like, I'm gonna go toss this salad, and she just storms off to go fix her salad.
Right. There's this one exchange like near the beginning of the episode that I'm only now remembering when they're getting out of the boat, and like the guy at the marina is like, you know, I'll tie up your boat for you, and she's just looking at him like, why are you propositioning me for sex?
Yeah. Well, you know,
It's like if you hand me your starboard rope, I'll tie up your stern or something.
Right.
Like that.
Yeah.
It's like,
She's
you
like,
know,
I beg
what?
your
And it's like,
pardon?
I'll tie your boat up, man. She's like, oh.
there's mentions of that. There's mentions of tossing
Oh.
salad. There's talks about being in the closet. This episode has
Oh,
some
shit.
undertones.
There is.
So
This episode's got some undertales.
yeah.
Damn! Columbo falls in the hole and goes on a wonderful journey to rescue the 7 criminal souls.
So Columbo unfortunately does a little bit of unintentional gaslighting. I can't really blame him. As far as he knows, there was no foul play yet. But Helen is very adamant. She is standing her ground. She is telling Columbo, I am sure that I saw a guy shoot another guy. Which immediately after that, we cut to Hollister leaving his house, and the murdering gloves are on, I noticed. Maybe I was looking too far into this, but you like very clearly see that he is wearing leather gloves, which we have been already primed to distrust anybody who puts on the murdering gloves.
It's the fucking Giallo gloves people in chat are mentioning.
Yeah. He jumps in his car and drives off. So I'm going to be honest, at this point, I'm not exactly sure what his plan here is. It seems like a horrible miscalculation to, when you are the prime suspect of a murder, to go and specifically seek out the witness, like for a good or a bad reason. So you're either going to murder the witness, that's sus, or you're just going to involve yourself with the witness's life after Columbo said, like, I can't tell you who that is. So it means you would have to have gone out of your way to specifically find out who the witness was. Just like I said, not a great murderer, like in terms of murder acumen, just rookie mistakes all over.
Like no one in this woman's life is like showing her any kindness or like giving her any benefit of the doubt or like listening to anything she has to say. And then like this man and this decorated war hero just comes to her fucking door and it's just like, well, don't you recognize me? I'm the guy you reported to the cops. By the way, I want you to watch the news tonight and you will understand that I am not suspicious or threatening, says man who is suspiciously threatening.
It is so awkward. It's like such an awkward and weird thing to do. He shows up at her house. I'm immediately thinking, like, he's gonna kill her, which seemed dumb, but I was like, well, I don't know why else is he putting on the stupid murdering gloves unless he's gonna kill her, even though that's a terrible idea. So he shows up. I'm probably giving the script too much credit here, but I'm going to say what happened was he shows up at this woman's house, realizes that, number one, she's hot, and number two, she lives with somebody else that's there, so he can't just murder her. So he immediately, like, comes up with the next best plan in his head, which is like, well, if I can't kill her, I might as well make her fall in love with me, which is...
I mean, I think the scene is just to, like, build up tension, to be like, oh, fuck, he's doing something really stupid and creepy. Why is he doing that?
Yeah.
Stop it.
Yeah, so, he basically just confusingly tells her to watch the news and then just leaves, which I thought was...
You're going to want to watch the news tonight. Don't forget my name or face.
And after that, he just goes, and now we're watching the news. We're watching the 11 o'clock news. We're at a nice little diner. Columbo is watching said news report on a little TV.
He's getting the chili.
He's getting the chili. He's there with, I assume, the owner. I believe his name is Bert. I don't know if it's said in this episode.
It's famous Bert from Columbo Diners.
It's Columbo Bert from Columbo's Bert's Chili. They really should have sold
Bert.
They should, if Columbo was on the air now, you'd know they'd be selling branded chili, like Columbo branded chili.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Isn't Bert's actor also the guy that plays Barney from The Beanery?
I don't know.
That might be true, but I don't have the...
This is not Barney's Beanery.
This
is a soundstage, though.
That's true. It's not Barney's Beanery. It's very specifically not Barney's Beanery.
It's very specific. specifically a different diner that Columbo also frequents and loves that seem to be run by the same looking guy.
And it's his best friend, Bert.
It's famous Bert from Columbo. You know him.
A lot of the times, Columbo doesn't usually, they don't usually show a lot of Columbo's friends, but whenever he does have friends, they're always running a diner or working at a diner, like 90% of the time.
Or like a hot dog stand.
So they're watching the news report. Yeah, it's always somebody to do with food. That's like a common theme. They're watching the news report, and there are a couple really awesome cutaways to the diner owner just looking super pleased at this news report, which I thought was very funny. They cut to him like twice, and he's just like, I don't know how to describe his face other than he's just like so happy to be watching this news report. He's like smiling. He's like doing the thing where you just kind of give like a half smile and like shake your head like, gosh, isn't that great? Like one of those.
What a guy.
What a guy.
Yeah, this is awesome, Lieutenant. He killed a lot of people in the war.
So the main thing of note here is that the report mentions a famous pistol of Hollister's.
His famous pistol that he had.
He had a famous pistol. I think it's like it had like a pearl handle or something. There's like some sort of signifying thing. It was like was his famous pistol, which gets Columbo's attention immediately upon mentioning it. They also mentioned that
he had a famous pistol.
General Hollister's famous golden deagle that he used to win.
Yeah, exactly.
He didn't tell me he had the golden deagle. I thought it was slappers only.
They also immediately after that mentioned that Hollister's career was cut short when he was blown up by a landmine, which is obviously tragic, but also just makes me laugh because it does seem like a Looney Tunes sort of thing to happen to somebody. I think
and
cartoons
also he looks completely fine.
Oh yeah, he's like maybe they should have like had him like with a bum leg or something like that, but no, he seems totally fine.
It also just reminds me of, I don't remember if it's a Tumblr post specifically or just some interaction on the internet at large, but it was just like someone making fun of the army and the troops, and then someone else getting mad on their grandfather's behalf, like my grandfather died serving this country, he stepped on a landmine and died, and then someone just replied like, how did your grandpa stepping on a landmine help this country?
Classic.
It's not my fault that I think landmines are funny. I think Looney Tunes has just like incepted the idea into my head that a landmine is a very cartoonish way to go. I can't help
Looney
it.
Tunes and Smash Bros.
I think it also is just because it like has nothing to do with the episode, so they basically just like say it for no reason. They're like, Hollister's famous pistol. Also, he stepped on a landmine and had to go home.
They blew his ass up, and that's why he retired.
He sprained his ankle, had to leave the ball game.
Anyway, good night.
It is like
is now over.
You just have to think of a way for someone to be honorably discharged and like still be alive and like be able to like live to a ripe old age.
It was I just
blew up, stepped on a landmine and tore his ACL. Exactly.
Yeah. That made me laugh.
They watched the news report and Columbo is like, wait, that famous handgun that he had, hang on, I have a Columbo idea. And he's like getting up and walking off, and there's this super awkward cut where famous Bert just like picks up his bowl and goes like, and they cut him off.
I didn't even notice that. To be honest, I don't even know where Columbo goes after this. I don't even think he shows up again before like it is assumedly the next day because it's daybreak.
I think he literally just goes home to bed, but he has idea now.
Yeah, I guess that's probably just it.
Like during this whole bit, also there's these constant cuts, not constant, I guess, but these cuts to like the woman and her mom and how the mom is just like fucking hating on her and ragging on her constantly. Like, girl, get out of there.
Yeah. Yeah, her mom is like, see, look at that. He belongs on Mount Rushmore. You really think this guy could have killed somebody? Just being
he
very
kind of did
rude.
in the war.
He killed a lot of people, Mama.
He probably killed a few people.
I was about to say, it's like they just said on the TV that he like took out a whole platoon or whatever. Like I don't. I think that doesn't. He definitely could have murdered somebody.
Blew their asses up, and then he got his ass blown up.
By a
hurt his
damn
hamstrings.
Landmine. So after that, Hollister returns to his home from his big important dinner, and then
oh my god, this bit is so fucking funny.
In supervillain fashion, he has a secret button that causes a false wall in his living room to rotate, And
His
he just
stupid revolving closet that
he just
keeps the
straight
mummy
up
in.
he has Dutton's body in there in a body bag. And
All strung up.
I was watching it and I was just thinking like, what is this used for if not to store a body? Like, why do you have this? Was this a thing? Was this like a 70s thing?
I think it was, because like they're just filming this shit out of like a house that Peter Falk owned.
Right.
So like
Like it had to
I
be
have to
there.
wonder if like Falk or like one of the writers or directors was like, oh man, here's this awesome fucking closet that revolves that we have on set. We gotta use this for something.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
It definitely feels like a shoot the rodeo moment where they just kind of realize like, oh, we have this, so we're gonna do this.
Wait, let's use this.
Yeah.
I think it's like the thing that is funny about that, and it just makes this guy seem like just it's just so confusing, because like usually when there's something like that, they will have established like the murderer has like a love or a predilection for high tech stuff or like secret stuff.
Sure,
you know, like the one with the last one we just did, where like the guy had like he had his office, he had like all these security screens, he had like these secret, you know, like all these secrets. That's the sort of guy that would have had a secret rotating closet that like hid a body in, right? Like you'd be like, oh yeah, of course he would. He's got like a supervillain lair pretty much in his office, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like this normal war hero is like the fact that like he's old fashioned. Like his way of hiding a body, you know, if he had just opened the closet door and the body was strung there in the body bag, it would have been like, oh, okay. But the fact that he had the rotating closet that revolves around to reveal the guy, and he's like drinking, like looking at it like, what am I gonna do with you? It's like so like what this is hang on, you guys got confused here. I don't know what this guy is.
It's a little
See, this
silly.
is why I love this fucking episode.
Yeah.
It's a little silly, a little goofy, but doesn't really detract. It is just it's a fun little abnormality, I suppose. So he gets the body from his secret body hiding secret compartment and leaves on his yacht and rids himself of the evidence of his crime out into the middle of the ocean. Done and done. Then it's the next morning, I'm assuming. Maybe a couple mornings, I don't actually know.
No, it's the next morning.
We are back at Hollister's place, or I suppose we never left. He's pulling back in. I don't know if it's implied that he was out there all night doing that, or...
I'm pretty sure that's the implication.
Okay, so he was just out there all night. And Columbo is doing the least suspicious thing ever, just fishing off the back of somebody else's private property.
Bro, you're not going to catch anything there. You're going to get, like, the Simpsons mutant fish because of all that oil in the water.
Yeah.
I do think it's probably a public marina, if I had to guess.
Yeah.
Well, actually, maybe...
It's, like, attached to his house. They, like, show it. Like, his
that's
boat
true.
slip
It
is,
is.
like, behind his house. It's
Yeah,
right
like that
there.
part specifically, but, like, you know,
Yeah,
it's a
that's true.
public marina.
Yeah, there's a lot of... Especially, like, I can think of a few places not... By the way, this... the seaside area this is filmed is Balboa Island, which is an island by technicality. It is a piece of land that is separated by water. It's not like an island that's way out in the sea. Like, it's just like you have to go over a bridge to get there from the mainland, and it's in like a little like inlet in Newport Beach. But like there's a lot of areas like that where it's like this is like technically public property, but it's like behind someone's house, so it's like you probably wouldn't go there, but it's not like someone can say like, "Hey, you're not allowed to be here." It's like, yeah, I can be here if I want to. I'm just, it would be a little weird for me to be here because this is right behind your house, right?
Yeah, it's the kind of thing where Columbo is just like coming up with the flimsiest possible excuse to insert himself into this person's life continuously, and just like, I don't know, he lives on the water. I'll bring a fishing rod. Nobody will question it. I'm a police officer.
I'll do some fishing.
There's a lot. There's a good bit of barely disguised innuendo here between Columbo and Hollister about quote unquote catching fish, using the right type of bait, looking at the right time, the kind of
getting there early,
nudge stuff.
catching them off guard.
Yeah,
it's so classic, like cat and mouse type shit. I love it. I eat it up.
It's true. This is like the only time in this episode where this happens too. There's normally like a couple, but this is basically like. This is the scene where it's established that Columbo knows Hollister does it. Hollister knows Columbo knows he did it. And now it's just like, well, who's going to win? You got to find a reason to pin me. I do feel like Hollister... I guess I wouldn't say that his confidence is specifically unearned here because, I mean, he is a very confident person. That's kind of his downfall. But he has done a really bad job so far of covering up the murder. He's very, very confident despite the fact that he has done a poor job.
He's so believable in himself.
Yep. And to continue that streak of confidence, Columbo brings up he had seen the news and learned about the general's famous pistol. And
you didn't tell me you had a famous pistol, General. You didn't tell me you had a character-defining famous object.
Yes.
You didn't tell me you had Aiden Pierce's iconic cap.
Right. It's like, okay, well, I was watching the news and they said you had this super famous, your iconic pistol, and you didn't even tell me about it whenever I was snooping around your house the other day. And once again, Hollister, thinking quickly, so to speak, comes up with an amazing tale. He says, "Oh yeah, I lost it. Well, I didn't lose it. Somebody stole it from me. Yeah, after I got blowed up by the landmine and I was in the hospital, some guy just took it. Oopsie."
Oh, but it's chill though, because I kind of started to hate what it represented. It was becoming like too much of a publicity gimmick.
Yeah,
I was tired of it.
This excuse is called into question at like the end of the episode, which we'll get to. But the fact that's not the suspicious part that he said, "Oh, I lost it." The suspicious part is really that he said like, maybe it's better that I lost it, because like if he really did lose it, it would be like that was the greatest. That's the worst thing that's ever happened to me. He would have had a line that was like, I got blown up by a landmine and I couldn't serve my country anymore, but I think what made me all the more angry was losing that pistol. I love that. And, that's what he would have said if he had did it. But the fact that he's like, it's fine. It's like the most important thing I had that made me a war hero and that everyone knew me for. But I think it's better that I lost it. It's like,
honestly,
I didn't really like the publicity of it. And
I didn't even like that shit. I didn't even like that.
I didn't even like being a famous war hero who was on television last night.
By the way, do you want to tour my house again and see my 300 relics that I have stolen and earned through plunder, and the ones that I'm specifically keeping forever that are one of a kind, like this giant lighter that I showed you at the beginning?
Yeah, Hollister is definitely the kind of guy who is surprisingly comfortable at lying for how bad he is at it. Like, he should not be. He is like so overly confident that he just comes up with awful lies and like just expects everybody to believe him. It's like, okay, man. Sure, why not?
Columbo, I don't even like war, Columbo.
I hated being in the army, General.
I hated doing fighting and having to trick people. I didn't know. It was bad.
So he comes up with an awesome lie about losing the gun. But don't worry. The good news is that the museum exhibit won't go without their special pistol because they made a duplicate of the pit. He invents the concept of, it's okay, they made a duplicate pistol, and that's what's going to be on display at the museum. I lost the original one. There's a duplicate that they made. It's gonna be a duplicate.
Chill, they made another.
So he's just he's literally strangling himself in an increasingly confusing web of lies.
Yeah.
As I said, just no murder acumen at all.
Nope.
If Columbo presses him anymore, he's gonna have to start talking about like fairies and ghouls.
Yeah, he's gonna have to pull the fairy defense and call Columbo a cute little fairy who lives with the mushrooms.
Well, Columbo, I could show you the replica, but a band of orcs came in and took it.
So
I lost it in a Faustian bargain, if you must know.
Yeah, I gambled it. So Columbo leaves. Now we're at the children and the animals, and Helen is there working with the children and the animals. And
there are tiny horses. They got ponies in the scene.
They got ponies and
real
llamas.
Horses. I don't know if real horses count for the sake of the Columbo horse watch. I'm gonna have to
of course
convene
they
with my
do.
wife about.
I think
no,
they
I'm
should
gonna have to
count.
convene with my wife about that.
Okay,
What?
that's
Because
fair.
it's mostly about art.
Okay.
Is a living
But
horse
I
not the
think-
ultimate art when you really think?
I
Isn't
think
it God's art?
Horses are, yeah, it's a beautiful animal. I think Columbo Horsewatch is tacit in seeing a real damn horse.
See, that's why I have to convene with like the experts on this again to see if that does count.
Okay, I as one of the 3 Columbo experts here, I think the moment we see a real horse, that's like what Horsewatch has been leading up to.
That's the most important moment of all.
That's the most important moment of all. That's what all this has been leading up to.
That's why they made this damn show.
Yes.
That's funny because
I'll have to convene with our scholars.
I can only think of one episode that has horses as a major thing, and it's like all the way in the '90s season. So it's gonna take us a while.
There we go. We're gonna have to wait till then.
No, there's like that one bullfighting episode that I think also has
yeah,
horses.
that's true. There's probably some horses in that one. That was pretty late too. Anyway, so Helen's at work with the children and the animals, and who shows up? Why, it's none other than totally innocent, definitely didn't do anything wrong, definitely not being weird, showing up at somebody's job, General Hollister. How nice of him to show up
I'm not normal.
Just,
I'm normal. I'm not creepy. I did look up your address. It's okay. I talked to your mom. She's a really nice woman, by the way.
Not only did I find out where you lived, I found out where you work.
Yeah. It is really funny seeing like this like big wide establishing shot of this park and everyone's dressed in like very normal 70s fare, and then it's just a guy in a suit just like walks in just like, hello, I'm here.
Hello.
I'm a normal man.
I'm
in a
here
normal
for
suit.
the woman who works with the children and the animals.
I'm not weird, and I'm not suspicious.
Yeah, so this is where the episode I have it written in my notes that it takes kind of a weird turn. I guess it's not that weird, but it is a different turn. This is where the episode feels like it takes a turn. Hollister starts to try to woo Helen, taking her out for drinks at some kind of fancy jazz piano bar.
It takes me by surprise, because when he's first talking to her, he's like, oh yeah, you know, I went and talked with your mom. She's a real nice woman. I wrote in all caps in my notes, he is going to fuck my mom.
Oh no.
but no, then he's like, I want to take you out for drinks because you're accusing me without a fair trial and you're being so un-American. And like,
yeah.
he's doing it as like a tongue-in-cheek, like weird flirty thing, but like, given the context of what we know about him, he's such a fucking creepy sleazeball.
It's impossible to tackle this without addressing the elephant in the room, which he is at least twice her age.
Yep.
It's not like she's not young. She's definitely supposed to be in her 30s, so it's like, it's not like she's, whatever, adults can do adult things or whatever, but it's a little sus. Like, I can't help but raise my eyebrow a little bit at it.
But being a weird, eccentric woman in your 30s who lives with her mom with no prospects, if an old man with a lot of money suddenly takes an interest in you, that's a pretty good deal. Everyone would say, yeah, that sounds like, and especially her mom is like,
right.
Well, that sounds great. You should absolutely get with him. Like, that would be great.
Like, he's a fucking creep on the one hand, but on the other hand, this is like the first person in her entire life who is like showing her even the slightest bit of kindness. And also, it might get her away from her fucking mom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, there's only so that scene kind of plays out. It's just some flirting back and forth, learning about each other, mostly uneventful. But it does have, I have it written down, it does have maybe the worst line in the entire episode. I had to write it down.
Is it the prosecution one?
It is.
Yes.
General Hollister says, "Now I think we ought to prosecute these martinis before their statute of limitations expire." I
wrote that in all caps, in bold, in my notes.
Oh
my god!
What a terrible line! Like, purposefully terrible, I have to assume. But ooh, that was rough. I was like,
her
wow.
reaction to it is also like,
yeah, exactly.
Immediately
what do you do
afterwards,
whenever you're a 60-year-old dude trying to flirt with somebody half your age? Like, you got no game, bro.
All he knows is how to make comments about like the military and the legal system and to like bark orders at her.
Yeah.
And like immediately after this, he hits her with the, "Say, you want a strong man and some children in your life? By the way, I'm quite rich and a business owner."
Yeah. And then after that, he even invites her out to dinner. And we thankfully skip over that scene because it would probably just be a carbon copy of the scene that we just watched. But we do see
So
her.
instead, we get a much better scene where we cut to Columbo and the mom doing gossip over coffee.
Yes. Columbo is making small talk with Miss Walters. Just kind of asking her, like, what's up? She's like, yeah, my deadbeat husband walked out on me. I sent him to go get Chinese food and he never came back, which is, that's lovely. A beautiful piece of world building right there. Helen comes back.
It explains a lot about her.
That's true. I mean, it all adds up. I do like Miss Walters. I think Miss Walters is a great character. I enjoy
She's an extremely fun side character.
Anytime she was on the screen in this episode, I was like, yes, dude. So Helen
More
comes
of
back.
your mom that sucks, please.
Helen comes back, and this is the point where everything just kind of like this is the point in which I feel like I won't say the episode was losing me, but at this point, General Hollister has made so many mistakes that I like can't help but be like, oh my god, like this is gonna be the easiest case of all time for Columbo. Like he's fucking up left, right, and center. Cause Helen comes back and mentions like, oh yeah, I was at dinner with General Hollister, and you see Columbo like look at her like amazed, like confounded. And
immediately the Columbo alarms start going off.
Yeah, he even says, he's like, boy, that's extremely suspicious that he would go out of his way to seek you out because I never told him who you were. And then Helen's like, oh, well, is it so wrong that a guy could just be interested in me for me? And
right,
Columbo's, he's like, well, maybe, but like, he's a murder suspect, lady. Like, come on.
like immediately and kind of understandably, like, after Columbo and like everyone else who is aware of this case is like, ragging on her, like, oh, are you sure? Oh, you know how easy it is for people to see things sometimes. Oh, were you drunk? Like, extremely suspicious man who has killed someone is like whining and dining her, and so she's immediately attached to him because it's like, well, no one else in my fucking life is like this. Why is everyone ragging on me now for having a bit of happiness? And it's like, oh, damn, girl.
It is.
No, you gotta, why can't you see like I do in the audience? You gotta get out of there.
It's a little unfortunate. I can't blame her, but it's unfortunate circumstances. And at this point, I mean, Columbo was honestly, doing his part in kind of gaslighting her unintentionally. But now that he kind of starts going over the, like all the facts of the case that have come up past that, which has made him super suspicious. It's like, oh, some kids saw a guy's car parked outside of his house. We looked into who owned the car. Turns out it's a guy that just mysteriously disappeared right after you mentioned that you might have seen a guy get murdered. And he
was
also
a military guy in uniform.
Yeah. So
weird.
He was probably wearing a military uniform. And wouldn't you know it, he worked in a position that would have him in constant contact with Hollister. And then he took a leave of absence and disappeared completely. So at this point, Columbo's all in. He's like, I mean, he didn't even need the layup from Helen being like, yeah, I'm seeing this guy. He was already suspicious. This basically just locks it in for him. He's looking to pin him, and now he's kind of like turning around, not turning around on Helen, but kind of saying like, well, look, here's a picture of this guy. You were so confident before. If you can just identify that this guy in this picture is the guy that you saw get shot, like, that's enough evidence to just book him automatically. But
and she's just like, well, maybe I don't know what I saw.
That's true. And
it's like, it's an interesting idea for an episode where this is the point where like the crux happens and it's like, you have the power to book this guy right now. And then she's like, well, maybe I don't want to because maybe he is a nice guy who likes me, which like in another show or like in a slightly more concrete episode, I think would be good. But for this one, it's just kind of like, this guy, really?
I like it, but man, the execution is a little sloppy.
Yeah, it's just a little sloppy. But it's not a bad idea.
You kind of have to accept that it's what they're going for because they only have limited time to air the episode.
Yeah.
And also Peter Falk is behaving badly on Earth.
Yeah, we haven't even gotten to the
show.
Bad behavior yet, too. So.
It's a TV show. They can't all be perfect. It's fine.
Yeah, I like the idea of it at least.
I think that
Yes.
this episode is kind of hurt by the fact that it is almost trying to have two main characters. Like, the show is called
Yeah.
Columbo, so Columbo's the main character, but it's really more about Helen. But the problem is that they spend half the time on one and half the time on the other, and so, like, neither
It would have been
of
a
the
much
plots
yeah,
have a
it would-
chance to, like, blossom into something purely interesting.
It would have been a much better episode if like she was the main character and her thoughts and feelings were like at the forefront the most, and the detective was like a secondary character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or it would have been better
really
if it
just
was
kind of rush
Columbo doing
through.
Columbo things. So.
They do
exactly.
just kind of rush through the whole, like, yeah, he takes her out to dinner once after threatening her at her house, and then she's like, but he's nice to me, though. He buy me
Yeah.
drink.
This feels like, and I'm sure I'm only in like season 3 myself. I'm sure this is also a problem down the line. And this is the problem with like any TV show where like you get like round peg in a square hole screenplays where it's like, this was an idea I had a while ago. We can make this work as a Columbo episode, right? Like, you know, it's
Yeah.
like and for the most part, like a lot of times that probably goes by perfectly and no one even realizes like, oh, like, you know, I've definitely had some like episodes of TV where I'm like, damn, that was really good. And then like seeing like, oh, this was a completely different idea that they like shoved in there and it worked perfectly.
Right.
And it's like, oh wow, that's really cool. But more often than not, you can tell like something about this feels different. Like not bad, but
Yeah.
different. And it's like this
There's,
feels
like-
like the sort of episode that could have been someone's idea that wasn't specifically Columbo related, but
Mhm.
we're like, we can make this into a Columbo episode. Yeah.
To bring it back to Star Trek, it feels like there were so many episodes across like multiple different series that really did feel like, oh, this feels like it's a pilot for a spin-off series they want to
Yeah,
do, and it's
yeah.
not
exactly.
getting greenlit ever.
Yeah, and
Classic
on your
Star Trek.
point, Mike, I will
Yeah.
say there is a string of episodes in the 90s season that are just not Columbo episodes. Just
Yeah.
straight up, they were like, we got the rights to some books that Peter Falk
Oh,
liked.
yeah.
And we're gonna, and Peter Falk is like, I want to do this one, and nobody had the power to say no at that point, and they are
One of
rough.
I can't wait.
one
I
of
can't
the
wait.
fucking like universally agreed to be worst episodes of the series ever is literally just like them adapting a different book with a different format.
Yep,
Awesome.
yep. Fun episodes, bad episodes of Columbo.
Yes.
But
Even the bad episodes are fun.
they
You-
are. They're fun to
Usually.
laugh at
Usually.
for sure. That there are some
Yup.
that are real stinkers in the later seasons.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
So, where were we? So, yeah, at this point, Columbo is like, I feel bad for Helen because Columbo's like pulling her in opposite directions. He's like, oh, were you drunk? Oh, now that I have more information, actually, I think you were exactly right. Can you please go on the record at that thing that you said before? And she's like, well,
Uh-huh.
no, I don't want to do it now. So there's a great crossfade here from one
Oh yeah.
scene to the next where
like I have the episode open. I looked at it.
it goes from Helen just like looking contemplative as Columbo leaves her house to her just like looking dead. I literally thought, I was like, oh my gosh, did she kill herself? Like, what happened?
Yeah.
No, she's just asleep. It just is. It's a very like I don't know if shocking is the right word, but it's a very interesting crossfade between the two images there. Yeah, definitely.
And she's like having this wonderful time out on the boat with the general, and like super not at all suspicious or like weirdly segued. He's just like, oh yeah, by the way, look at how fucking bright and sunny out it is today. There's no way you could see through the window of my house and see anything that was happening,
Yep.
especially not someone getting shot or killed. By the way, let's go inside.
It's very funny that Hollister felt the need to continue to gaslight her. Like he didn't even feel confident that his plan was working, so he just had to gaslight her just a little bit more. Just like, oh yeah, look, the reflection of the sun on the water. Oh, look, it put such a big glare. Oh, there's no way you could have seen anybody get shot, couldn't you?
Someone in chat
That would
just
be
now has
crazy.
mentioned that they felt like the episode was like hard to follow. I don't really feel like it was hard to follow. I feel like the issue was that like it was establishing like, oh, here's a point about the plot or the character, but like not really spending any time actually establishing that, just going, okay, this is how it is. This is now known. Okay, so we're now going to treat this like it's been like, you know, actually well built up.
Yeah, I would say this is like the difficulty of, I would say in most Columbo episodes, there's really only two main characters. It's Columbo and the murderer. This one
Right.
has three, and you can really feel them like struggle
Straining.
to establish all three of the characters in the time allotted. I think that's maybe what makes it feel a little slapdash. And also, as I keep alluding to, Peter Falk was behaving badly, which we're at the point of the episode now where you start to see the full effects of Peter Falk behaving badly. In the way that things are shot.
Do we want to just like talk about that now then?
Yeah, I think this is probably a good time to bring that up. So Peter Falk, there was a bit of a kerfuffle with the filming of this one. Specifically, Peter Falk was part of his I might be getting slight details wrong, so please correct me.
It was a contract thing.
It was a contract thing that said I get to direct an episode. I think it's Universal, right?
Yes.
So Universal was like, for whatever reason, they're like, we don't want you to do that. So Peter Falk being like he's not like a nobody, but he's not like, he doesn't have like amazing star power or whatever. So basically, he's like, okay, my only bargaining chip to get what I want is to not show up to work. So at a certain point,
he kept going like, sorry, I'm
up.
sick. He kept going like, sorry, I'm sick. I can't show up to Columbo today.
Yeah. So he like,
I can't come to Columbo practice today. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. I read something that it was like, yeah, he got like a doctor's note. He was like, yeah, I can't show up. So at this point,
I'm obsessed with the idea of like a 7-year-old asked fake doctor's note, just like, please forgive my Peter Falk from coming in because I am sick today. Signed, doctor.
Tummy hurt, can't act, unable to
really
act.
Bad.
Tummy
no
hurt
survivors
bad.
Unless he rests.
He fell and hurt his foot really badly, but he'll be okay tomorrow.
Yeah,
he ate 12 shrimp, and so he can't come in all month.
So
he's developing a shrimp allergy at 30.
No.
So there was a problem where they needed to film the episode, but Peter Falk isn't there. So at this point in the episode, it's something that I paid my first watch, I could tell that there was something weird, but I didn't know what. And then after my first watch, I read like an article that explained this whole kerfuffle. And then on my second rewatch, when I was writing my notes, it becomes very obvious at this point in the episode. I want you to count the number of times there are shots with just one character, either Columbo or another character, and specifically the back of Columbo's head. It goes up by a magnitude that is noticeable, even if you didn't know specifically what was going on behind the scenes. And yeah, apparently it was like, the other two main actors, I can't remember their names, even though we mentioned them earlier. They were
Eddie
like pissed.
Albert and Suzanne Plachette.
Yeah, they were pissed. They were like, we're not happy about this.
There's a direct quote from Eddie Albert, because like Peter Falk was like just a fucking diva on set. The reason they got him back on set is because Universal threatened to sue him.
Right. Yes.
So he comes back, he's fucking pissed. He's demanding a bunch of these scenes that they like shot without him get reshot, and they don't want to reshoot them. And he's just acting like a fucking huge asshole about everything. Direct quote from Eddie Albert, and I quote, "I always wanted to meet you. I always wanted to work with you, but you're a real asshole."
Yeah.
He was really excited to work on this episode before this, and they got along real bad on set. Suzanne Plachette, who has known Peter Falk since she was like 14, after this episode, didn't fucking talk to him for like an entire year.
Yeah. It was rough. I feel like, unfortunately, as we continue down the going down the seasons of Columbo and learning more about Peter Falk, I have to admit, he seems like he's kind of an asshole. Like, especially later on, he's, he doesn't seem like the kind of asshole who is like super purposefully like rude or mean to people, but he does seem like he's like, well, if I don't get my way, like I'm fucking walking. Like he was very stubborn is the impression that I get. Very stubborn on set. Yeah,
right. He was a little diva on set.
And I mean, on one hand, it kind of makes sense where it's like, what really, like, if you want something from a big studio, like, what weight do you have to throw around? Like, literally, it's like, okay, well, the only thing I can do is just not show up. of course, that does fall apart whenever the studio is like, okay, you don't want to show up, we are going to sue you. And he's like, actually, I'll come back.
All right, fine. All right, you got me.
Yeah.
He does eventually get to direct his episode. It's like the last episode of the first season. I'm excited to get to it because there's a bunch of the structure of that episode that's like really weird. That like my first watch through, I was like, why are they doing this? And I looked it up and it was like, oh, because Peter Falk directed this. Oh, okay. I guess he like really, really wanted to like establish a lot about like Columbo as a character. That's interesting. Yeah. And now like all this time later, like after I know all the shit about Peter Falk and the way he behaved on set, it's like, oh, yeah, I see.
There's an episode in the 90s run that Peter Falk wrote, and I can say I hate it. One of the worst episodes of Columbo ever. It is literally, I mean, it is an episode about Columbo getting to kiss a hot girl multiple times. Like, it's so transparently. It's a bad episode. It's a really bad. We'll get there in 2029, but like, I can't wait to tear that episode down because it pisses me off. I'm like mad at Peter Falk for putting that episode in the series. It's rough. So yeah, so that's why the last third of this episode is like shot kind of strange, paced kind of strange. It kind of just like stumbles towards the finish line at this point. Helen is being gaslit. They go back to his house at night, at Hollister's house at night. There's a bit more wooing. I have here written in my notes in all caps, God, no, girl, don't kiss him. He's old enough to be your grandpa. No, come on.
The exact quote I put in about that in my notes is, girl, leave that meat alone.
Yes, yes.
Yes. There's this one really good, like bit of cinematography that I like in this like scene where like, you know, he's like, you know, doing the, oh, I love you so much. You're so captivating. Tell me about like your life and how your love life has been so poor up until now. And like the camera goes back to show her like sitting at the table and like the general is like, you know, standing tall above her, and her face is like, I posted a picture of it in the Discord. I don't know if you want to get it on screen or not. Her face is like specifically framed between like the candle, like the candles on the candle holder on the table. Like she's like fucking, he's got her in his grip. She's trapped in there. There's no getting out.
That is true. It's kind of crazy.
It's a weird shot.
I like it. It's really good,
very
considering the best of the episode's been a little bit flat and sloppy.
Yeah. So after that, sorry, I have to pull my notes back up real quick. I lost the tab. There it is. So after that, we are, I think at this point, it's like some days later. It's not like the next day, because I think they mentioned that it's been like a few weeks or something, a couple weeks.
Right. No, so like, I don't remember exactly how long it's been, but the transition is really good. Where like, you know, they get up and dance. He's fucking creepy. He's like, I order you to get up and dance with me.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
And she's like, I'm drunk, so that's hot to me. It's fucking creepy though. They like do their little dance. They have their big passionate kiss. Very sudden cut to commercial, and then disaster at sea. A body has appeared and a woman is screaming.
Yes, I love that part. Yes, it's they cut to a marina. It's like quiet for like a few seconds, and then just like you see the body like surface or float into frame, and this woman just like lets out this blood-curdling scream, and then like the sound of a giant horn on top of her plays. They really play with the audio in this last third, maybe because there wasn't a lot of video to work with, but I feel like there's multiple times where characters are like yelling at each other over ambient noise, which I think they just thought that was funny, which it is funny.
They kind of do it a little bit at the start of the episode too, where when the general shoots the colonel, instead of like seeing a gunshot, they just cut to the sound of seagulls.
That's true. So yeah, it is a dead body, and what do you know? It's the only dead body that would be relevant to the episode. It's Dutton's body. Hollister learns about that on the radio on his yacht, and Columbo is already there to follow up on this development.
Hey, bro!
He is saying, hey, bro, you got some time to talk, and then Hollister is like, this is another classic Columbo villain thing where Hollister's like, oh, sorry, Columbo, I've got no time to talk to you. I have to do something. I don't know. I have to do something right now. Except, you could come on my boat with me if you want.
Come on my boat, you damn boy.
And we immediately get the impression that Columbo doesn't like boats very much.
Nope.
Doesn't like boats, doesn't like planes, loves his car though. Absolutely loves
In the
his
same
car.
way that in the same way that Columbo already knows what these murderers have done and like needs to work out how to get them. All these murderers seem to know that Columbo gets motion sick, and
Yeah, I guess so. I don't
having
know.
any vehicle that isn't a car is like leverage over Columbo.
I think
I'll tell you if you get on my boat, and he's like, oh fuck.
When they do it in the like Airplane Woman episode, it feels like kind of like a fun inversion of power and like who's in control of the chase, because it's like in the middle of the episode. Here it's like right at the fucking end, and all he does is drive his boat out and then turn around and come back, and it's so fucking nothing.
And
It's
he doesn't seem confident the whole time. He's just like, there's a guy on my boat who's being murdered.
He's just on the
Yeah.
boat with a guy who is shouting, and that's how they're conveying that he doesn't like it, even though it's also just loud.
Yeah, the plane scene is definitely like, a sort of inversion of power, like you said. This one is just like, we think it'd be funny if Peter Falk had to act like he had a tummy ache, like a little bit. We just think that would be like good comedy for the episode, which hasn't had a whole lot of comedy in it. They always gotta throw in, like,
doesn't feel good right now.
Yeah. I think that's also something to be said about this episode is like, it does feel up until this point, it almost feels like they realized like, oh, this show is like kind of supposed to be funny at times, but there really hasn't been anything, there haven't been any like written jokes at this point.
Right.
So
I feel like so much of this episode's comedy is either by accident or because standards have changed from the 70s to today, and we're looking back at it with a different eye.
Exactly. So I think they realized at this point, like, well, we haven't really had anything funny. I don't know. Columbo gets seasick easily. Go put him on the boat so he can like bumble around a little bit.
Let's trick him.
So out on the water, Columbo and Hollister chop it up about the found body, which they give a very funny explanation, I thought, where he's like, yeah, there was a body, it's Dutton's body. Looks like somebody tried to weigh him down, but some sharks came and chewed through all the ropes holding him underwater, which is like super convenient and very funny. I don't know if that was just a lie that Columbo said, or like, I really don't know how to take that, to be honest.
He makes some comment, I think it's like very slightly after this bit, where he's like, oh yeah, and by the way, I studied the tides, and I studied like, tidal mechanics and like how things flow and all that way. So I figured out that if someone dumped this body by your marina, it could have drifted out all the way to this other place.
Yeah.
That's weird, huh?
Yeah, on my first watch of this episode, I was like, I just thought it was like another miscalculation or just another murder fail from Hollister, where it's like, did he really not tie the body down with anything? Like, I totally missed the line about the sharks.
No, sharks got it.
And then on I had it written in my notes already. I was like, man, this guy sucks at murdering. He didn't even tie the body down. And I'm like watching the episode and they mentioned the sharks and I'm like, well, fuck, I have to delete that. I guess he did tie the body down and sharks ate the ropes. Like, what the like, what the hell? Like, that's so out of nowhere. Maybe they also realized that would have been really dumb if he just like threw the body in the ocean without tying it down. So they had to come up with a line to explain it afterwards.
Fucking sharks got him,
Yeah,
dude.
sharks got him.
This episode is fucking hilarious.
It's very
Not only is he a
strange.
bad murderer, but sharks are out to ruin his whole day.
It's like a combination of being a really bad murderer and then like the worst luck. Just cursed.
If there's anything we know sharks hate, it's the military.
True. So yeah, we get an extended conversation between Columbo and Hollister here. Columbo, starts to do his classic little Columbo lie where he's like, oh yeah, the boys in the back office have been, they've been working on a pretty good case against you. I'm here to help you. Like, I don't think you did it, but boy, those guys back at the office, they got a pretty good case. Let me lay out every single fact and how I know the exact thing that happened without even being there. Let's see. Well, you had construction. you have a construction company. There was a conspiracy to defraud the government. You left on your yacht right after the murder would have happened. I studied the
tides which I studied.
Yeah, it's like he's just going down the list, just like, I know you did it. 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 Of course, this
but
is
it could all be circumstantial, of course. But the
That's-
boys downtown believe it.
right. And of course, Hollister isn't phased. He's like, well, all that is sure interesting, but you don't have anything that pins me and Dutton at the same place at the same time. And you don't have a murder weapon, and you don't have anything. So at this point, Columbo's like, my
really
tummy hurts. Can we go back? And he's like, yeah,
Murders
sure, we'll
are-
go back.
Really good at thinking of all the things that the detective does not have that could get them good. It's like, yeah, you got all that circumstantial evidence, but you don't have proof that we were together at the same time.
Right.
Mhm.
So Columbo knows that there's only one link that he has between Hollister and Dutton, and it's Helen.
The witness.
It's the witness. And he even tells Hollister as much. He's like, well, I know one thing. I know that this lady right here saw you two together. So if I can get her to, give that information up.
She's got such a cute little sailor getup in this scene. I
That's
love
true.
it.
She's got a ton of great outfits. I will
She does.
I will remember the matching mustard and ketchup outfits for a while. Those, I
the
love
fucking
those.
Easter egg mother and daughter is a
Yeah.
classic.
So Helen's back waiting at Hollister's slip at his house, and Columbo tries again to get Helen to give her original version of what she saw. Now that Dutton's body has been found, that would just wrap it all up. She's blinded by passion for this old man and just straight up refuses and says, leave me alone.
She loves this decrepit fuck. She loves his food and money, and she's like, I didn't see anything. I don't care what I said.
Yep. We get in the classic hero's journey. This is where our hero is at his lowest. Columbo leaves. He's dejected. He's like, I gotta go back to getting chili.
We gotta go to
the
Famous
diner.
Bert's.
We're back at the diner with Bert. He offers.
Famous Bert is like, how you doing? Columbo does the sideways hand wave, and he's like, well, you could have some chili. And in what feels like it's two scenes spliced together, Columbo is just like, why don't you give me some chili?
Yeah.
like voiced in a way that sounds like he did not at all hear or acknowledge Bert suggesting chili.
It's like, why don't I make you some chili? All right, make me some chili.
Yep.
Why don't you
make me some chili?
I'm sure has something to do with the not the reshoots, but the strange shooting schedule of this episode. But it turns out, in a stroke of good fortune, that Bert is a World War II veteran and starts spinning a yarn about how his wife wanted him to throw all of his old war crap out, and he couldn't do it. He says something along the lines of, you can't really get rid of something that important to you,
I wrote down the exact quote because I was so charmed by his delivery of it. He was like, I can't give nothing away, especially when it means something to you.
Yeah. It's like he knew the exact right words to say to Columbo so Columbo could solve the case. Like he was like
also
given a script in universe to say those things to Columbo.
It's also like another thing that's good is like the thing he's showing is like a soup spoon that he got from Okinawa. So he's like, look at this spoon, like it's just a soup spoon, but man, I couldn't give this shit away. And then makes Columbo like, well, wait a minute.
Yeah.
If this guy had so much pride in his soup spoon, then a fucking crazy guy like the general really probably would have kept his gun.
Yeah.
He's like, all right, Bert, give me a fucking 10 cents so I can use the phone. And Bert's like, all right. Well, how do you like your coffee, by the way? No answer.
No answer.
So Columbo calls I guess he calls Helen's mom and not her. I can't remember. But anyway.
No, he calls Mrs. Stewart.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And she is presumably with the general and is like, immediately tells him because
Right.
they're in love.
So they meet up at the museum that had been mentioned a few times. They're at the exhibit. Helen and Columbo. It's honestly amazing that Helen would just accept this. It seemed like she was pretty sour on Columbo's existence the last time, but I don't know, maybe he sweet talked her off screen into agreeing to meet up with him.
Again, it's this episode of classic of well, this thing has to happen so that we can have the plot we want to have happen. So everyone just accepts, oh, okay, I'm asking you to come, and then she comes because she has to.
Yeah, it seems a little far-fetched to me that Helen would agree to anything involving Columbo at this point after the last scene that they were in. But, you know, the end of the episode is drawing near and it needs to be over, so they have to end it. Columbo walks Helen around, starts showing her a bunch of Hollister's old things, including the supposed replica of his famous pistol.
I love they stop to look at like it's like some kind of Navy manual, and they're like, this book, he was shot by a gun, but the book stopped the bullet because of his courage.
Yeah, that was kind of confusing. I was like, what does this have to do with anything, Columbo? Like,
he has so much courage, miss. I think he was a really cool man.
Yeah.
And he makes some comment about like his outfits, and she calls him like an unmade bed.
Yeah. He's like, well, some guys don't like to look like an old mattress or something like that.
Yeah,
I think unmade bed.
Yeah, I think unmade bed was the word.
And
she like gestures at Columbo like you.
Yeah.
It was a pretty sick burn.
He straightens his little tie all sheepish.
So at this point, Hollister shows up because, of course, Columbo has correctly guessed that Helen would immediately tell Hollister that she and Columbo were meeting somewhere. And at this point, this is like kind of supposed to be the big gotcha scene, and I gotta be honest, this one just does not land for me. Columbo brings up the fact that he finds it hard to believe that somebody like Hollister would really let his famous pistol be stolen. Columbo then brings up something that I personally find confusing. He specifically says, if that were my gun, I'd take very good care of it. I'd keep it cleaned, I'd keep it oiled, and I'd keep it loaded. And if Dutton came over and threatened to expose me, that's the gun I'd use to shoot him. That makes no fucking sense. I don't want to go all CinemaSins here, but if you had a gun you were famous for using, wouldn't that be the literal last thing you would use to commit a murder? Like, that makes... I'm not trying to point out plot holes to be a nuisance here, but that does not hold up to scrutiny to me.
I want to bring up, along this line of thought, so Wikipedia, the free online encyclopedia, has like sections for each Columbo season and like little summaries of each episode. You know, normally it's like, you know, just like a plot summary, and then like an extra header for like, you know, the final clue or the final twist, and then like a header for like, you know, extra notes or extra trivia. For this episode specifically, and this is the only episode in any season I've seen it for so far, the summary section has a header called Mistake.
A mistake
about the gun. And because, you know, they bring up, you know, you would have it loaded and you would have it oiled and well taken care of, but that's just like some shit that he had in his box to get shipped out.
Yeah,
because he pulled it out of the box at the start. So here's
why was
what
it
says.
Loaded?
Right, here's what it says under Mistake. General Hollister retrieved the revolver from a shipping crate he was packing, then immediately used it for the murder. However, an experienced military man such as himself would have never packed a loaded gun, as that is a dangerous way to transport a weapon.
Yeah.
The rest of the weapons even had the firing pins removed, being from museum display. The murder was not premeditated, so he wouldn't have left it loaded intending to use it in the murder.
Yeah,
the thing that's like,
makes no sense. Again, not to go all CinemaSins, this is something that makes zero sense as soon as you think about it twice. Like, it just completely falls apart.
I read... You go ahead first.
I think it would have made sense if he didn't pull it from the shipping container. The shipping crate. That's true. If he had gone... Because, like, there's... I don't even know why they did this, but, like, they cut away before he pulls out the gun. Like, because I guess it's because the gun, like what gun he did it with is like a crux of the mystery. Or whatever. So like it's like a twist or whatever. But the fact that he like reaches into the shipping crate, pulls out the gun and shoots him. If he went behind his desk, reached into a drawer and then pulled out a gun and shot him, that would have been like, okay, he keeps his lucky pistol loaded in his like in his desk drawer. That would have made perfect sense, and it would have justified Columbo's doubt at the end. But the fact that like this was one of his relics that was in a shipping crate and that got sent over is like, you know, and also they didn't explain like his cover story was, oh yeah, it was
It's a
replica that they
Yeah.
made. So then it's like, how did he get it from his, because it wasn't in the shipping crate that Columbo looked at,
I
probably.
mean,
Right.
he was sending multiple shipping crates because he had so much shit.
It
It's
could have
true,
just
so
been in a
it's-
different
yeah.
crate, but I do
Yeah.
agree
Yeah,
that the entire crux of the gotcha here makes absolutely no sense. It should have
Yeah.
been he pulled it out of his desk or whatever, like you said, or like it should have been like,
Yeah.
this gun is so important to me that it's the only gun I'm not donating. Like that should have been established, and then it would have been like you could have done something with that, with it to like, oh, why is it at the place? Oh, it's a replica. That would make sense why you'd make a replica, because you don't want to give away the original because it's so important to you. But yeah, it kind of makes no sense. I think specifically the thing with Columbo saying like, that's the gun I'd shoot him with, to me just reads as Columbo basically calling Hollister stupid. Like, it's
Yeah.
not so much a plot hole as it is just an admittance that
Which,
Hollister was
to his
literally
credit,
too dumb to ever get away with this.
Yeah,
to his credit,
well,
he kind of is.
He was
I-
right.
I
That's
remember-
the thing. He's right.
I
He's not
remember-
wrong.
But before I sat down to like watch this episode again, I like read the summary and read the fucking mistake header, and I was like, I don't know, maybe they're being kind of nitpicky about this, like they're doing some CinemaSins bullshit. And then I watched the episode, and it was like, oh
really-
no,
yeah.
I see what they're on about. Oh,
Yeah, it really doesn't make much sense. It's like it's so long between the beginning of the end and the end of the episode that, I mean, maybe like it lessens the impact of how stupid it is. I mean, Columbo even brings up the fact afterwards that, like, after Dutton's body was found, literally anybody, he's like, I would have done it, you would have done it, anybody else would have gotten rid of the murder weapon. You are the only one dumb enough to keep the murder weapon around after doing the murder and the body was found.
yo,
Yeah, so Hollister's story about the duplicate gun was completely fabricated. As expected, though, like, I don't know if maybe that, like, were they expecting that maybe the viewer of the episode was just supposed to believe that story? Like, that was the big twist, is like,
But
it
he wanted
wasn't
Columbo to believe that.
fabricated. But like, that was obviously a lie. The guy's been lying the whole episode. Like, why would that be the one truth that he would tell? Like, was that supposed to be the twist? But I don't know.
because again, like it's an issue of them like telling, not showing, where they're like, yeah, this guy is like so he has so much confidence in everything that he says and does that he's like so confused that someone wouldn't just believe the things that he tells them.
Yeah.
Like he's
It's-
really charismatic, which you can tell because we told you he's really charismatic.
Because he
They said it
instantly
on
bagged
TV.
himself a bad bitch with his
Yup.
awesome pickup lines.
Go straight to his head.
With his awesome pickup lines about martinis and law or whatever.
And following his orders
And
to like kiss
following
him or
his
whatever.
orders. So at this point, Dutton just gives himself up. There is no
Yup.
duplicate. He's like,
I guess also like he maybe part of his thought process is like, well, if I tell them it's a duplicate gun, then like why would like an imitation piece be used in like a murder if it's just like, you know, meant to be an art piece? And so
Yeah.
there would be no reason for them to like run forensics on it or whatever, but they did anyways.
yeah, it's also the kind of thing where a lie about a gun being a replica would have been like trivially easy to fact check with the museum, or like, because he says like, oh,
yeah,
the museum,
thinking about it, huh?
the museum created a duplicate. Like, couldn't have Columbo immediately
It's
gone
true.
and asked and been like, hey, is this a duplicate? And obviously whoever is working there has no reason to lie to Columbo, so they would be
Right.
like, no, it's not a duplicate, this is the real thing. And then Columbo's
Or like, or that,
okay,
that
well, the
he
fucking
gave
last third of
he
this
gave it to
episode
us.
can't happen now because I did the smart thing. Like,
Uh-huh.
Columbo had to be a little dumb too in order to facilitate the last 30 minutes of this episode happening at all.
What a funny fucking episode.
It is. It's a weird one.
My favorite part of this whole episode is right here, right at the end, after they book him. And what's her name? I'm so bad at remembering the names of these characters.
Helen?
Helen. Yeah,
Helen.
she's like, oh man, why do I always find Mr. Wrong? I'm so unlucky. I should just live in a hole. I should live in a closet forever.
specifically, yeah, I should just stay in the closet forever, which I thought was a
Like,
very funny way
I should
to
lock
phrase that.
lock myself
I should
in the
lock
closet.
myself in the closet forever.
like girl number one, no, come on out of here. There's plenty of women that would want a weird woman like you. 2, we get the one single mention of Mrs. Columbo right here at the end of the episode. No other mention during the whole episode, and it's literally just him going, yeah, I have a niece. I know what a niece is. It's my wife's sibling's daughter.
Yeah, the ending of this episode is absolutely bizarre, made even more confusing by the fact that Peter Falk was not there. That is very obviously a body double. They don't show his face. It's the back of his head the whole time. They found another like 5'6" guy to wear a raincoat, and that was it.
There's like one shot where he says like, no, that's wrong, you know, and like and then like the final shot of them walking out is like, yeah, it's just the back of his head the entire time.
Yeah, it's kind of strange because Helen is like obviously distraught. I guess before that happens, I mean, Hollister does apologize to Helen, so I guess there's like maybe a little bit of ambiguity there where it's like, did he really love her? Was it literally all just a cover up? Like, you don't really know. You could take the idea that like maybe he really was falling in love with her, but they don't spend enough time on that to like make it
like anything
matter.
else in the episode.
Right.
Yep.
So Helen is distraught. She's like, I should just be gay or whatever. And, but you know what? More power to you. Yeah, you go, girl.
Especially in the 70s.
Yeah, it's very strange because she's like crying. Like she is very distraught. And then like Columbo says like one thing where she's like, don't worry about it. You know, you'll, I don't even remember what he says, but he's trying to console her. And then they just like immediately segue into a non sequitur about nieces. And I'm like, what the fuck? Wasn't she just like crying? Like, what's going on? Like, I don't know. The ending of this episode is a bit of a confusion bomb. Like, I feel like the confusion bomb went off in the room.
It's like, no, the ending is like, do you remember when we did like the final bit of HLVR and like it's the like on like an hour before we go live and I'm like having a fucking panic attack and Scorpio is just like, oh no, it's okay, it'll be okay. Do you want me to talk to you about Heavenly Sword? And that somehow just like completely grounds me in the moment. It's just like, what are you talking about, dude?
Yeah.
That's what he did.
It seemed to work because she immediately was just like, oh, I don't know. Like she seems fine after that. She's like, oh, you know what? Just went through a traumatic experience. I'm okay.
It's that easy.
But yeah, that's Columbo Dead Weight. Even a confusing title for this episode. Why is it called Dead Weight?
Because the guy died and he weighed him down in the water.
I guess, but that's like such
and
a
also
small
because
part of it.
Also because people think the woman is dead weight because she's weird and she sucks and she's klutzy.
I guess. I feel like they like. If anything, they could have come up with a more meaningful title for this episode. Everything about this episode is weird. This might be the strangest one of season 1.
For their fucking war hero episodes, they usually love having some kind of like war joke as the title. I guess they didn't want to do it this time.
But to be honest, even him being a general definitely played into the plot, but like, I don't know, again, it's like this is an episode that's kind of pulled in 2 separate directions and it makes both halves fall flatter than it could have been.
Yep. Yeah. But it was funny.
It was funny. I there was a lot of times where I certainly enjoyed watching it. Mostly just for like, I mean, I just love Bert. I'm going to be thinking about the scene where they're watching the news and he just like is happily shaking his head. Like, I love that so much, man.
Man, what a guy.
Oh, what a great guy. Remember when he stepped on that landmine?
That and the landmine.
I wish I went out like that.
It's a great episode if you enjoy Columbo at its stupidest, and if you're expecting like an actual compelling, like well-crafted mystery, you're gonna be disappointed.
Maybe not the best first episode to show someone of Columbo.
No.
It's a good second or third episode if they liked Columbo.
Yeah.
Save it for like the 4th or 5th episode.
Exactly. Yeah. But I have heard, I'm pretty sure the next episode is one that is like, that people really like. If I remember correct. Isn't it like frame?
Suitable for framing. Straight up. That is one of the best episodes.
People say that's like one of the best ones. So we're going to be jumping from a bit of a sophomore slump into a beautiful famously well crafted. It'll make you laugh. It'll make you cry. I haven't seen it yet. I'm sure it's good.
Wait, you haven't seen that one?
No, I haven't seen any of season 1. I jumped in at season
2.
So
I
all
didn't
these
know
are
that. Yeah, no,
first-
this one's a banger. Like, not to spoil it, I won't say anything about
Right.
what happens, but I remember I think it was just on TV, but the first I had seen of this episode was I had
Trog, can you
tuned
put the
in.
stick on screen?
I had tuned in like right at the end, like right at the last scene when the gotcha happened. And it's like the gotcha is like good enough that you can watch it just as its own scene and be like, oh wow,
That's
oh
badass.
shit, he got his ass, dude. Oh fuck
Mhm.
yeah. It's good. It's a good
That's
one.
good because I do feel like I feel like all of these early episodes have been good, but the gotchas have ranged from like okay, decent to like so. So, you know, I'm really
Yeah.
really waiting for when they really stick it. It's like, "Oh, that's so clever." Like, "Oh, he really got
that's-
him."
I feel like that's kind of a Columbo standard where, like, in a season you get, like, 1 or 2 gotchas that are, like, really, really
Yeah.
solid and strong, and then a lot of them that are, like, that's a bit of a stretch.
Yeah. It's you know, as we continue forward in the show, like, I mean, let's be honest, this show is extremely formulaic. Like, that was
Yeah.
you're going to be hearing a lot of the same if you watch every episode of this podcast.
There's
Or every
going to
episode
be
of
a lot
Columbo.
of there's going to be a lot of episodes where the murderer is a military man who's really stupid and really cocksure.
Yeah.
Please look forward to the Boodle Boy episode.
There are at least, I can think of like at least another 2 or 3 military episodes off the top of my head.
There's like 4 or more.
Yeah,
like
there
that,
has
I
to
think.
be. There's a lot of military guys. You know, in between the recording of the last episode of this podcast and this one, I did finish, me and Trevor, we finished Columbo.
Oh, nice.
And I gotta say, that last season or the 90s run, oh my gosh, I was getting depressed by the end of that. I was like, oh no, what? It's like, it really is like seeing like an old pet. It's like, no, man, no. I wanted to remember you for the good times. What are these episodes, bro? But I only mention that because I want to point out the last episode of Columbo ever filmed, it goes out on a good episode. So
Awesome.
That's good.
the last episode of Columbo, is it the best? No. But God, compared to the last like 8 episodes before that, it's like Steven Spielberg
good.
made it again. Like it's so much better than the rest of the last season.
See, the only thing I know about the last season is that it's only like a season in name in like the DVD box sets because it was
Yes.
like a bunch of unrelated like sporadic specials and stuff.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's like there are multiple year gaps between episodes by the end. Like it was like they would do like a special here, a special there, and then you know what the sad part is that the last episode of Columbo is good enough that I am like sad. I'm like, damn, I would have loved to see more Columbo in the 2000s because you can see the shift between like 90s filmmaking and 2000s filmmaking. Like it's not like full Y2K, but it's like it's modern in a way that would have been so interesting if they would have kept doing it.
Yeah.
But it's a little glimpse into the alternate reality where Peter Falk just lived forever, I guess.
Yeah.
And when Columbo's ratings didn't take a fucking nosedive in the 90s because they were pumping out dog shit for like 5 years. But we'll get there eventually. We got a long ways to go before we get to
the last
those.
episode was 2003.
Okay, 2003. For some reason I thought it was 6, but that after I said it, I was like, that's too late. It couldn't have been 2006.
Mm-hmm.
The singular post 9/11 Columbo.
Yup. Man, imagine if we had lived in a world where we got a bunch of post 9/11 Columbos. Would that be good or bad?
Like I said,
Probably bad.
I wouldn't put. I believe the episode is called "Columbo Loves the Nightlife."
Yep.
I wouldn't put it. I would probably put that in like the short list of like. It might even be top 10. Like, not top 5 episodes, but it probably top 15, top 10 episodes. So I think they could have. I don't know if they just like had specifically a good writer or a good director, or maybe they like wrested control of the show back away from Peter Falk and said like, hey man, like you gotta chill. These last episodes have been rough. But yeah, it was a good one. And we'll get there in 2037. This podcast will go on forever. We're like, what, 5 deep? There's 69 episodes.
Yeah.
But you'll just have to tune in for when we get there. But for now, you'll tune out because the episode is over. Thanks for watching.
Yay!
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, we'll catch you guys sometime. You know,
Eventually.
you'll get it when you get it. All right. No complaints. This is free entertainment, motherfuckers. Not that anybody has been complaining. I want to point that out. Literally nobody has been complaining. So that came off
most
really
I've
aggro
seen-
for some reason.
The most I've seen is like an understandable like when are these going up on the podcast?
It's true. I have not done a great job. I need to get the audio versions up. I'm very sorry about that. I've been busy. But
people have been patient about
Yeah.
it. They've just been curious.
and you can catch these on YouTube. These are on YouTube on the Trog VODs channel. That being said, if you're watching this, you're already watching it on that YouTube channel, so you already know. So this is probably pointless to explain. But
We also stream this live on Twitch if you weren't aware.
that's true. And if you're listening to the recorded version, we do stream this live on Twitch. I don't do a good job of telling people when it will happen. I'm sorry.
Nope.
I'm realizing I'm doing a terrible job of promoting this show right now.
Because I say in the future, because we get like at least a day or two notice, you should give people like a day or
I
two
need to
notice.
start giving people notice. I'm very sorry. I do truly apologize for that. I'm new to this stuff, all right? The next time I will let people know in advance. I'll let them know the episode. I'll let them know the time. We'll get it. I'm gonna work on it. All right. You have my Trog.
We'll get it. We'll get
my
it.
Trog promise. But yeah. Other than that, that's
This podcasting shit is easy. Wait, what do you mean we have to like schedule things and also tell people when it's happening?
yeah. No,
Oh,
the
fuck.
podcasting, the
man.
talking about it is the easiest part. Like I'd talk about
Yup.
Columbo forever. It's the letting people know and like putting it in a place where people can see it. That's the hard part. But yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Thank you, Holly. Thank you, Mike, as always, for joining me
Yippee.
on this Columbo adventure.
Thanks for having us.
And
Thank you.
we will catch you next time, whenever that is. Tune in.
Eventually.
Bye, everybody.
Tomorrow.
Bye.
Bye.